Arjun, have you uploaded the presentation? Suhasini? Suhasini?
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. You can start now. We've 4 minutes past time.
Sure, sir.
Should I start recording?
Yes, Rituja. I think you should start recording. Okay. Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. So as we all know, today we would be discussing the admission process, the learning adaptation, safety protocols, and the new normal at the #1 college for commerce in India, Sri Ram College of Commerce, University of Delhi. On behalf of Ma Anandmay Memorial School, I, Suhasini Gaur, cordially welcome all the participants and wholeheartedly thank the entire SRCC leadership team for collaborating with us in the interest of the student community. This session will be live streamed on Facebook, so feel free to ask your friends, family, and acquaintances to join us in an interactive conversation. After the session, if time permits, we shall devote a few minutes for Q&A, question and answers. Meanwhile, feel free to drop your questions, opinions, suggestions, or queries in the chat box. I would request all of you to kindly keep your questions short and crisp. Moving ahead, today on our esteemed panel, we have some eminent speakers led by Professor Simrat Kaur. She is a professor of economics and public policy. Dr. Kaur is presently the principal of Sri Ram College of Commerce, University of Delhi. Prior to this assignment, Dr. Kaur was at Faculty of Management Studies at University of Delhi, where she taught management graduate courses on the economic theory of a firm, macroeconomics, and public policy reforms. Thank you. Welcome, ma'am. We also have Dr. Rachna Java. She is an associate professor and coordinator, NAC Steering Committee at SRCC. We have Dr. Miss Priyanka Bhatia. She is the teacher in charge of economics department at SRCC. We have Miss Smita Sharma. She's the bursar and in charge of scholarships, fee concessions, and examinations. We have Dr. Tarun Manji. He's the teacher in charge of the commerce department at SRCC. We also have Mr. Harish Kumar. He's an assistant professor at SRCC. I cordially welcome you all. With this, I would now invite Mr. Arpit Panchwani, Director of Ma Anandmay Memorial School, to take the session forward from here. I hope you all enjoy the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Suhasini. I've had the incredible privilege to receive my higher education at SRCC not so long ago. And I'm truly grateful for my alma mater for facilitating some of the most important life lessons that hold me in good stead. On that note, I must warmly welcome all the panelists and acknowledge each one of them for painstakingly taking the legacy forward from strength to strength and for proactively agreeing to hold this discussion. SRCC has continuously evolved and led the way in educational transformation, and this modest effort is truly a testimony of the student-centric approach that this pristine institution harbors. Without further ado, let me deep dive into the business end of things and hear it from the horse's mouth. My first question to Professor Simrat Kaur. Ma'am, SRCC is back at rank 1, a position that we all know it has retained for years. What is the USP of the SRCC brand and the SRCC pedagogy? Is there a key ingredient or a formula that sets it apart? And does the college now have a strategy in place to maintain that numero uno position and performance in the post-COVID world? Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arpit. It is indeed a pleasure to be connected with our own students. I also take this opportunity of thanking all the participants. This is our humble way of remaining connected with the parents and the students regarding the admission processes in the University of Delhi and specifically at Sri Ram College of Commerce. information dissemination is important. And during the times of COVID, when most of you could not visit SRCC personally to inquire about your queries and get them addressed, we are very delighted that using this platform, online platform, we are able to help some of the stakeholders regarding the admission processes and the USP of Shri Ram College. Arpit, you mentioned that SRCC has been at #1 for several years. Yes, it is a point of great pride and also a point of great responsibility, because retaining the top positions are difficult. Attaining them may be relatively easier. When we discuss any kind of a good institution, and especially if you are trying to talk about the global bests, which SRCC is #1 in terms of education and commerce in India, there are 3 critical inputs that one must look into, and which the very fact that we are at #1 means that we are doing things right on these 3 pillars. The first pillar is the talent pool. Basically related to my student community, my faculty, and the research output that is coming henceforth. The second important pillar based upon which sustainable institutions grow is your resources, which is your financial resources, your human resources. This is basically, I'm talking about the stock of the capital based upon my alumni, and also the financial. So physical resources, financial resources, and the stock of human capital build up world-class institutions. And the third is within the organization, what kind of governance structures we have adopted in terms of our administration, and remaining connected with our students in terms of facilitating their processes of admissions, examination, communication, in general, the information hierarchy dissemination. So we are trying to do things differently, and we are trying to do things good on these all fronts. Connecting about the first pillar, which is my talent pool, what do we do differently for the students? Of course, we are a part of the University of Delhi. So whatever is the prescribed course, we have to teach that. But in addition, to help bridge the academia industry gaps, we ensure ample number of value-added course to our students for giving them that extra pitch on the academic front. Also, we have several societies, close to about 50, which nurture my students on the development of their extracurricular activities and society works. For example, we have a society totally looking into the finance dimension, another totally commerce, marketing, etc. So these are areas where the personalities and dignitaries who are best across the globe come and interact with our students and give them motivations and inspirations based upon their own life cycles and the stories of both successes and failures. And one thing which clearly emerges from these dignitaries is that every failure has led to later some kind of a success. So my students must understand that if at all they think something has not come forward according to what they planned, it is only a small bump in the entire storyline. What do my teachers do differently? Other than teaching the traditional mode of chalk, talk, and walk kind of a system, we have the best of the technology-enabled classrooms. We have Wi-Fi's, we have projectors, which are being utilized. So it's a combination of a modern approach to teaching pedagogy as well as the traditional approach, and supplemented very well by the one-on-one teaching learning, which is the tutorial-based. Under this, not more than 10 to 12 students are there under a particular teacher. So any aspect which you're not able to deliberate, discuss, and debate within the classroom because you have close to 60 students, this Vivad, Samvad kind of a thing is taken forward in the tutorials. Also, what my teachers are able to supplement in the classroom is their approach towards training. And this fructifies in giving them real life examples in the classrooms. To substantiate, I would like to mention that my teachers, many of them are training the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India. Their staff is being trained, their officers are being trained by my faculty. Also, my faculty is training the officials of the Reserve Bank of India. We go to Bombay and we are training them. So this training in real life practitioner approach is helping the teachers give that additional bit in the classrooms. And when we talk about the research and the book output, I think I would like to mention the books. Most of the books in the area of commerce, several of them are actually written by authors of Sri Ram College of Commerce. So it is a legacy which we have developed from the past, we have taken from the past, and we are trying to take it forward in the small steps that are being initiated. But our pillars of the brand have a history of close to 90 years. We are now about to celebrate the 100th year. What are we doing during COVID time? Sir, Arpit, you did mention we cannot replicate the in-person, offline kind of a teaching and the kind of delight you get when you enter the premises of Sri Ram College of Commerce. Obviously, that is not possible under COVID, but respecting that human cost and human life are immense and we have to take care of that. We have very gracefully adapted to the new situations of online teaching learning. And I would also say that we are trying to promote the best of the digital platforms. And wherever we feel that the students are not able to get connected and there could be a psychological well-being aspect associated with it, we are supplementing it with the mindset development of the students by providing a very strong psychological well-being center at SRCC, wherein services are provided 24/7, because we understand these are difficult times. And we are also trying to introduce several value-added courses to ensure that the students who are at home, and if they are saving time on commuting, is well utilized to make them prepare for the world tomorrow. So Arpit, maybe I'll come in later, but largely these are my words at the beginning of it.
Thank you very much, ma'am. That certainly got the dice rolling well. On to Mr. Harish Kumar now. Sir, as we all know, the board examination marks have certainly skyrocketed this year. In light of that, are there likely changes in the cutoff vis-a-vis last year or the year before last? So in that view of the situation, current students can be better prepared with backup options. Also, I made note that the deadline of the submission of online applications has been extended. So when is the first cutoff likely to be released? Can you please walk us through the process and timeline thereafter? Harish, sir.
Isn't that the question in everyone's mind? When will the first cutoff come out?
Absolutely.
I'll give a prediction. It's definitely not coming in August. So it might be coming out in September, but right now, see, to all the participants who are viewing this and to general participants too, who may not be viewing this but might view this later, the admission process to any constituent college of University of Delhi is governed by the extant rules and guidelines issued by the University of Delhi. So no prior predictions are ever made on cutoff or of any kind that, okay, this might be the cutoff. We do give on our websites that, okay, this is the past cutoffs, and generally students are able to make some prediction, but officially we do not make a prediction about what kind and be given in the first cutoff for a particular category. So students, again, I'll tell if those of you are listening, just follow the websites. You will be duly notified in time by the college website as well as by the university website that the cutoffs have come up. Regarding the admission process, what has been different this time? There has been online applications for the University of Delhi for, I think, past 3 or 4 years. This time, the only difference was that there is a pre-application stage and a post-application, which is what we call the verification stage. So in the pre-application stage, the applicant would generally have to choose a course as well as would have to choose a college. This time, there is one uniform form. It doesn't matter the student is, the applicant is checking a merit-based admission or a entrance-based application. That's one common form. And the moment they enter that, they're automatically registered for all the 53 courses offered by the 90 colleges of University of Delhi. The second phase, once the cutoffs are out, there is an eligibility criteria, which is very well detailed in section 2 of the Bulletin of Information issued by the University of Delhi. So according to the cutoffs, the students will be automatically allocated the course in the college, which they can select their preferences from that. That, okay, maybe if you have cleared the eligibility and if you have cleared the certain cutoff of a particular college, you can apply for that. Now, the difference that comes in the second stage, that is in the verification stage, is that previously in the pre-COVID era, we students would have to visit the college. They would have physically visit, that is, and then they would have their documents verified. And this process where first they would enter the college at around 8:30. They would purchase the prospectus, fill the prospectus, attach their documents along with it. Then the form would be checked at by a level 1 committee. Then it would go to the main admission committee. Then it would be signed by the principal. Then the students would receive a link for the payment of fees. The moment they would pay the fees, they would receive a intimation that their admission has been confirmed. This year, because of the COVID situation, there is not going to be a physical visit to the campus. So the moment the cutoffs are out, students will get they have to check their application dashboards that, okay, you are eligible to apply in these colleges. Students will have to make a choice, and this choice for any given cutoff is one time. The moment they do that, after that, all the things are going to happen at the back end. So students won't need to physically visit the campus. The only caveat in this is if there is any something in their documents which is not very visible, which is maybe their documents need to be asserted, then the college might send them an email or might send them a call that, okay, please help us with this document. And over there, the college has certain discretion that if the student applicants don't apply in time, then the college has a discretion to reject their application entirely. So that is one point. And apart from that, the only physical verification will happen when the university gives a deadline that, okay, on this particular date, applicants might have to visit the campus to get the certificates verified. Apart from that, there is no actual physical verification. So this is the change in the admission process. That's about it.
Thank you very much for the clarity, sir. Moving on to Dr. Rachna Java. Ma'am, how has SRCC adapted to the new normal in terms of the upcoming session? Would you be following a blended learning or staggered approach to reopening? Any infrastructural upgradations, especially in terms of technology in recent times, that you'd like to share with the audience?
Thank you very much for the question, Arpit. Now, SRCC being a constituent college is bound to follow the academic and learning framework as given by the University of. It becomes quite apparent that in the upcoming semester, it is likely to be a semester that would be held on digital platforms. The college is awaiting necessary guidelines from the university on how to take the semester forward. In the meantime, we have already implemented our backup in the form of MS Teams, and we already have systems in place in case we are going ahead with the digital form of teaching. Even in the pre-lockdown era, the college has actively enabled a blended learning approach whereby it has used ICT forms and the traditional teaching. During the lockdown, of course, multiple channels of teaching learning were adopted. Some of the teachers used Zoom, others used Google Meet, YouTube platform, etc., etc. And regarding the reopening, again, the colleges and universities have to diligently follow the guidelines as may be given by the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Home Affairs, and the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Reopening will necessitate adoption of the protocols and standards of highest order, keeping in mind the health of SRCC fraternity. The college is already in the process of implementing the same. Since health is a major concern, we are proactively disseminating information and are maintaining a strong communication with our stakeholders at all the levels. We put up awareness notices for students regarding COVID-19. This started right in the month of February only. We have displayed communication channels for unique counseling program, as ma'am was mentioning in her introductory part. It is being strongly implemented in our college. It's a unique program whereby every week students are sent emails on various aspects of mental health and emotional well-being. Besides these, the students are always motivated to form their own societies, their groups in the college, which are almost 50 in number. And the societies are functioning in an online mode. They already have their systems in place. They are conducting webinars in relevant areas, which are definitely honing the personality development aspect of the students at the college level. Besides this, the college is, of course, considering starting the next semester. The DU guidelines mention that the second and the third year classes would start by the 10th of August, that is coming Monday. So we already have the timetables in place, and hopefully we will have online mode of teaching, whereby we remain connected with the students throughout, not only at the academic level, but also their psychological well-being is carefully looked into at SRCC.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Digital or virtual learning is the need of the hour, and I'm proud to see SRCC take on this mandate. On to Smita ma'am now, who has known the college for years and has incidentally taught me business law in my first year at college. Smita ma'am, this is by far one of the most important aspects of this session. Can you brief us about the safety precautions in place within and outside the classroom? Is SRCC campus, including the hostel, well equipped at this time? Ma'am, you're on mute.
Okay.
Ji.
Am I audible now?
Now you are, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Arpit. Thank you very much for remembering your teacher. I taught you business law. Arpit, this is the question on which sometimes in few cases we will have to depend upon the university when the university is going to open the colleges for the students physically. But otherwise, what precautions we are taking, that is something internal to us. We have the committee also formed for the disaster management, that is post-COVID period, and which will take care of all the standard operating procedures before opening the office. Offices are working, our admin office as well as the account office, they are working, but not with the full strength. But all the standard operating procedures are being followed for that. Even the classrooms, like sanitization of the classrooms after the classes are over, and having the dispensers for sanitizers, or having wash basins outside where the students can wash their hands. These are the procedures that will be, that the committee will suggest. Whatever the university will provide us, that whether the classes are going to be totally online mode or it will be in a blended form. If it is in a blended form, maybe 50% of the strength we are calling on one day and 50% of the strength of the student being called on the other day. All these things, university will give the guidelines, or MHRD will provide us the guideline. But as far as the internal things are concerned, this is sanitization. Hostels also, we will see to it whether it will be a double-seater or a single-seater for social distancing. So these things we will take a call on this whenever the university asks us to open the colleges physically for the students. Definitely this will be taken care of, and because the health of the students is very important to us, and we have, for the benefit of the health or for the other purposes, we have the facilities of gym trainer in the college, we have the facilities of physio in the college, we have a doctor, physician, as well as the orthopedics doctor that is available to the students. So even during the COVID period, during this lockdown period, we have not discontinued their services. Their availability is on online also. So we are taking care of the need of the hour, and accordingly we are making arrangements. There is already a committee which is being formed by our principal to take care of all these things. And it will provide the guidelines before opening the college after the lockdown period, in the unlock period.
Sure, thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, students have their concerns about scholarships. Are the scholarships available this year? And what all quotas is SRCC offering for admissions, particularly this year?
And there are different types of quota in the admissions, like we have SC, ST, OBC, war widows, and other quotas are also there, economically weaker section quota. And there are few seats for the students from Sikkim, for a few seats for those students whose parents or anyone has got injured or died in the war. So different types of quota. This quota system is provided to us by the university. Same quota is applicable in the college also. So these are the main quotas we can say in these admissions are given to the students. And as far as the scholarships or the financial help to be provided to the students or some fee concessions, the minimum amount of scholarship in the college is 12,000. That comes out to be 1,000 per month. And there are many scholarships. Basically, we categorize the scholarships into three. Few scholarships only and only on merit basis. Few scholarships only and only on need basis for the economically weaker section. And there are few scholarships which are on need cum merit basis. There is one more thing that is earn and learn. The students, while they are learning in the college, they can earn also. This is also available in our college. Students doing some work and they are being compensated for that. So this is earn and learn program available in our college. So many more scholarships are there. Negotiations are in the pipeline. We are deciding about this. And during the lockdown period also, students, those who have been already selected for the scholarship, they are being online, the money is being transferred to their accounts. So scholarship, maybe it is around 200 scholarships are there. Many more are in pipeline. So fee concession is also available, and there we categorize the students according to the parental income. The fee concession, it is also a good amount, 15,000 to 10,000 in the slabs. It is being given. And fee concession, financial help also is provided to the students. Sometimes the students who are not able to pay their, because of the circumstances, pay their mess fees, or there are many colleagues, they contribute for that. Otherwise, also from some other groups or some social workers, we get the money that would distribute among the students. If the student is not able to pay the fees, but scholarship we can give only 12,000. But there are other different ways in which we help the student. Once the student comes to, as far as the financial part is concerned, fees or some other things, they are being supported by the college in a very handsome manner, and where the money is being as such given to them for any. If some students come ki ma'am hame coaching ke liye chahiye, even then we help them, students, if they need some coaching or they want to pursue CA for this, they want to have the coaching. As such, once the student is in the college and the student is a genuine one, I don't think, as far as money matters are concerned, there will be any problem to any student.
Thank you, ma'am. That's really benevolent and very inspiring for all of us.
Thank you.
Ma'am, since you're the exam in charge as well, is the examination system at SRCC and in essence at DU likely to change?
This year it has changed. We are having open book examination starting from 10th of August for the final year students. This is an open book exam where the student can have access to their books. It is on, they will get the question paper on the portal provided by the DU, and they have to upload their answer scripts on the portal itself. If there will be any problem to the student in downloading or uploading the answer scripts, then college is there to help them. So from 10th of August, we are going to start with it. Otherwise, as far as the examination is concerned, we are governed by the Delhi University rules.
Perfect. Thank you, ma'am. Let me swing back to Professor Kaur. Ma'am, what is life at SRCC going to look like hereafter? Is it going to be any different from my experience a decade ago, especially in terms of the multitude of clubs, activities, and exposure that the college offers? What changes do you see, and when is the session likely to take off?
Arpit has already informed the session takes off on the 10th of August for the second and third year students. And first year students will commence only later when the admission process is over. And since the deadline for submitting your admission forms is 31st of August, admissions will take place only in September, and their classes will commence only later, the date of which has not yet been decided and informed by the university. How would life look different? Certainly, sir, it would be a great difference in terms of your physical presence, because you're not going to be in the premises. So even for the orientation day, like often most of the parents come for the orientation, we invite the parents also, and there's a lunch session where the parents and the students of the first years, we all are sitting together and enjoying. There's a virtual tour that we take our students to. There is a mentor-mentee session where the physical part of the training is or tours is concerned. How is it going to change, sir? Everything which was happening on physical mode would now change to a virtual tour. So the orientation will still be there. Parents and students will still be there. As usual, instead of my concerned teachers being sitting on the podium, we will remain available on a virtual platform, telling them about the college and also taking up their queries. So the platform will change from physical to virtual. We will also be giving them a very good virtual tour of the colleges, just as if they were in the college. So all this is going to be as normal. The platforms would be different. Coming to the society life, sir, anything without the children is, we don't like the college when we go. It is a hustle bustle kind of a system wherein at least about 2,500 students and my teachers together are there. So corridors are all vacant. Not many people are there. We will miss our students, but we will ensure that the best of the teaching learning, which would otherwise take place in the physical four walls, would now be transformed into a virtual platform, digital platforms. We are encouraging usage of MS Teams. So that is the teaching learning. Tutorials will continue as usual. In fact, I'm often asked a question that, ma'am, when everything is virtual, one teacher can only teach 200, 300 or 1,000 students. Sir, it is the reverse, because we have also noticed the moment I am also teaching on a virtual platform, because I'm unable to get connected with my students. Having a smaller batch size is more important, and also remaining connected with the students outside of the class is important. So the role of the tutorial now would also change, wherein my faculty not only would be mentoring them in terms of academics, but also talking to them about the overall well-being of the mindsets of the students. Regarding society work, sir, I think the very advantage of being a student of SRCC, the level of innovation and adaptation which my students and faculty have, sir, it is world class. I think the number of seminars which have now been called webinars have become so immense that on a daily basis, my office is becoming burdened rather in terms of providing approval. So student activities have not changed. Yes, the platforms have changed, sir. And we will eagerly look forward that the COVID situation flattens this health cost, and we are able to entertain our students within the college premises. But until then, this is a commitment from each one of us, including the principal, that within the new constraints, we will ensure optimal utilization and optimal delivery across platforms, whether it is in terms of development of academic skills, mindsets, skill sets, or knowledge bases. So we will not, we will innovate, adapt, and feedbacks have become very important. The college is continuously taking feedbacks from both the faculty and the students, that whatever we are doing, if they want us to reorient our strategies, we are open to that. We are all in a learning phase. And as I mentioned, remaining connected with the students during this time is of utmost importance. And this commitment will be there even during times of COVID.
Thank you, ma'am. Your humility is absolutely admirable, and I will second that through my experiences in the placement cell, corporate communication cell, and the economic society at college. The learnings were definitely unparalleled and more so outside the classroom than within it. It's time to address some course-specific apprehensions. Moving on to Priyanka, ma'am, who heads the economics department. Since the academic session is most likely to be curtailed quite a bit, what advice do you have for students to be better prepared for the economics honors course so that aspirants could use this time available judiciously? Are there any changes in the course structure with reference to the new skill development required today? For instance, the importance of data analytics across industries.
All right. Good afternoon, participants, and thank you, Arpit. It's a very relevant question. I would suggest for students who aspire to join BA Honors Economics to use this time productively. And they can do this by strengthening their mathematical concepts and skills, which they will soon realize are really important for a better understanding of the discipline of economics. Now, coming about the course bit, the University of Delhi has adopted an LOCF approach in its undergraduate programs. And by LOCF, we mean Learning Outcome-Based Curriculum Framework. Okay. Now, within this framework, BA Honors Economics is a very well-constructed course. The course is such that it imparts rigorous training to students in the discipline of economics. And the training that we impart here at DU is comparable to that at any university in the world, if you are looking at the undergraduate level. All right. So it's a very rigorous course. And within this course, a new paper has been added, which is very meaningful. It's called as the data analysis paper. As the name suggests, in this paper, in this course, the students will learn how to handle data, how to organize data, how to visualize data, and not just on paper and pen, but they would be doing it actually. They would be using statistical software to learn all this. So it's a very meaningful addition to our already well constructed syllabus. This paper is actually has been introduced under the skill enhancement course category, and I think it's truly skill enhancing. It really lives up to its the name of the course that it is in. So I think a very good addition, and I'm sure students will enjoy this. The course will use publicly available data sets to help students learn about the types of data, how to organize data, how to visually represent data, how to draw statistical inferences. They will also learn to compute summary data statistics. And I think this will really help them in understanding statistics better. And it has got a lot of application in real world. This will definitely improve their employability bit as well. Now the LOCF, the purpose of LOCF is precisely to prepare students for both academia and employability. And I think this edition does a lot in this direction. So a very good addition. I will sum up by saying that it's truly skill enhancing. So yeah, anything else?
Thank you, ma'am. Economics and data are relevant to all, and the importance is only going to grow in times to come. At this point, I must brief the August gathering about certain data analysis I did myself. 47% of the 450 respondents to the registration stated that they do not have an idea about the application process. 41% said that they somewhat have an idea, and that leaves only 12% who claimed that they were well informed. Therefore, I must once again thank all the panelists for agreeing to address this ambiguity. Moving on to Dr. Manji, I will post the same question to you, sir. What advice do you have for students to be better prepared for BCom Honors course so that aspirants could use this time available judiciously? Are there any changes in the course structure with reference to the new skill sets required? How has the course evolved with reference to the job market requirements, say for instance, the importance of digital marketing today? Dr. Manji. Sir, you're on mute.
Hello, am I audible?
Audible, sir. Yes, absolutely.
Arpit, thank you very much for the question. Since this webinar is on disseminating information related with admission in the SRCC, most of my colleagues have covered, almost all aspects. I will come to your question, but before that, I will also try to emphasize certain things which is related with eligibility criteria and combination of subject for computation of merit. Like there has been some kind of confusion among applicants about necessity of mathematics as an essential condition for admission in the BCom Honors course in our college. So through this webinar, I want to inform all applicants that mathematics is essential condition for admission in the SRCC for BCom Honors also. If we talk about certain other things about other criteria which basically determine the cutoff things, so in that direction, I would like to inform that selection will be made on the basis of marks obtained in qualifying examination, which will necessarily include one language and 3 based subjects, which includes mathematics, accountancy, economics, and business study or commerce. Apart from this, if applicants desires to include any other paper in the first, best 4 from any of the course which is specified as elective courses by Delhi University, then there will be deduction of 1% marks, deduction of 1% per subject on aggregate. If applicants desire to include any subject other than allied courses specified by University of Delhi, and that is called list A, which mainly includes language papers. So in that case, there will be deduction of 2.5% marks per subject on aggregate for the base 4. Now, Arpit, coming back to your question about, so far I understand there are, 3 aspects of your question. First one is about judicious use of time for the student. In that regard, I would like to say that, a student should not be worried about, completion of courses, completion or any other things related with curriculum, which is decided by University of Delhi. So my message to the student is not to be worried, be positive. Everything will be taken care of by college and university and teachers. If we talk about, changes in courses over a period of time, which mainly aims on, enhancing skill development in a student, in that direction, there has been some changes by Delhi University. As we are constituent college of the Delhi University, course is mainly prepared by University of Delhi. And last year, Delhi University have incorporated some of the courses which are skill-based, like, incorporation of subjects like GST. It's one of the, and like that, there are many subjects. In addition to that, in college level or university level, we do not only, impart theoretical knowledge. There is also mandatory requirement of conducting some of the practical class, so that, students can have a clear-cut concept about, how to apply theoretical knowledge in a practical world. At college level, for job market, our college, Sri Ram College of Commerce, have started add-on courses so that we can prepare our student in accordance with the requirement of market. Some of the add-on courses started by our college are, data analytics, which is mainly taught with the help of R software, where students are, with how to deal with the fundamentals of data analysis. Another one course is about chartered global management accounting, which is offered in collaboration with the American Institute of Certified Public Account. It aims at developing a strategic level case study problem solving skills. Another course, add-on course, which is offered by our college, is courses on Coursera. It is a online platform that offers more than 4,000 courses related with data analysis, financial market, developing leadership and emotional intelligence skill, communication skill, and many more things. It is, very important to know that Coursera platform have, many more academic institutions like Stanford, which are offering courses on this platform. Apart from that, college also offer add-on course on legal literacy courses. This course is offered in collaboration with the Delhi State Legal Service Authority. These are my thoughts on your questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Professor Kaur, we have received this query in multiple registration forms, and as an educator, I'm personally intrigued about this one. I will leave it to Mr. Trilok Bist, Principal DPSG Vasundhara, who is a CBSE awardee, to communicate his query. Arjun, if you can please unmute, sir. Mr. Bist.
Trilok, sir. Yes. A very delightful afternoon to all of you, and it was such a wonderful treat to the ears to listen to Sukrit ma'am and all the professors from RCC. I am Trilok Singh Bist, the principal of Delhi Public School, Ghaziabad, Vasundhara branch, and I must say that we have been doing all that you have been talking, whatever you have given us the tips as a principal, I felt it was very beneficial because, you know, I was just thinking, how do we justify the creativity, the problem solving skills of our children, the reasoning of our children, the analytical skills of our children, and you know, we give them a lot of exposure to MUNs, debating, event management, community services are a good exposures given. Even the internships are being done in 9 to 12 in our school. Every year from 5 to 6 children from our school do get admission in SRC, but they get only on the basis of their percentage. That is 99.6, 99.4, 99, you know, 90, 98, 99 bracket children only get into that. My question here is, if we look at all these aspects with the new education policy, they say it should be student centric. It has to be student led learning. Students should be given the weightage for all these qualities of problem solving, reasoning, analytical. You talk about data analytics today. Data science is becoming a big boon. It is there in the whole of the world today. But by way of a huge cutoff percentage, which at times can be secured through mugging up and just vomiting out in the examination. So what kind of people are getting into it? Maybe you are changing them within no time, but they are muggers. They have been just mugging up the things, vomiting out in the examinations, getting a full percentage, and what we call as a jugaad kind of a thing. How is SRCC as a path breaker institution? Like I know this is one amongst the best colleges in Delhi even. If you talk about their 4 premier colleges, whether it's SRCC, LRS, LSR, or Hindu or Stephen, every child aspires to go there. So with this kind of path-breaking institution leading the way to challenge this, how are you going to manage this status quo? And can we expect any changes in the admission process hereafter to be less mark-centric? Or are we having any impact of the new education policy which has been launched recently, which talks about a lot of changes, which talks about even in the higher education, first year they give the certificate course, second year the diploma, after 3 years they give the degree kind of a thing. Is there going to be any impact of it in the admission process, or it will again be just percentage oriented? So Krit ma'am, my question is to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bish. To the question that you have put up, it's a very policy-oriented question. And I would answer this from a perspective of a researcher and a public policy professor, not necessarily in the form of a principal of Sri Ram College of Commerce, because there is a wider perspective to it.
Right.
The first thing one needs to understand is that the admission processes always have pros and cons associated with it. If you are totally based it upon the quantitative approach, not just the numbers matter, sir, but also the marking scheme of different boards and different central versus state boards would matter. And if there is no uniform assessment of weightage being given to any particular state board vis-a-vis central board, only numbers would matter. But if you are governed by the university guidelines, then yes, numbers are the only thing based upon which students would be within the college. This, to some extent, can be mitigated because professional courses do allow a separate common admission test, also supplemented with a personal interview and a group discussion. But until such time, we do not have wait for a group discussion and a personal interview, and we are basing it totally based upon the class 12th reports. Whatever you are saying, sir, is bound to happen. So yes, it is a deeper, one has to look into the policy perspective of whether numbers alone should matter. However, sir, the moment you make admissions qualitative oriented, then again comes the element of too much of subjectivity. And if you are not sure about the governance structures of the people who are going to admit the new students, several questions can be raised on the committee which is now interviewing the students, because it is total subjectivity oriented. And we have across the 30 years, my association on being on the admission portals of other courses, have realized that sometimes going beyond numbers is useful. But then the questions that are raised on the authenticity and the integrity and the ethics of the committee then become a question mark. So it is easier for us to rely totally on numbers because this is totally above board. Nobody can question us on anything. So until such time that you want to remain above board, admitting students on the basis of this exam is probably a better system. However, yes, sir.
I was just saying that at the same time, I said one thing. Once the introvert children also get into SRCC, I have seen them flourishing like anything. They become so extrovert, they become wonderful. I'm saying only at the intake, time of intake, we are not able to get the admission for those children whose learning outcomes are beautiful. Their student profile is amazingly good. It's only the percentage which matters at the.
Sir,
at the
I would just like to say that in addition to merit-based admissions, there are admissions based upon sports and there are also admissions based upon ECA. ECA is my extracurricular activity. So any student who is good at ECA but is not getting into the 99 plus cutoff can be admitted under the ECA quota.
Right.
We have about 5% students reserved for sports quota and the ECA. And the marking scheme is totally available on the Bulletin of Information. The marginal change this year is that only the basis of admission would be your scoring based upon your certificate so far. Otherwise, in the earlier years, students would come and perform a dance or a kathak or a debate. And then in addition to some percentage, which was probably 60% based upon percentage, the remaining 40% would be your performance on the day of the examination, practical exam. But this year, because we have to maintain social distancing, the practical component will not be there, sir, but you do have your certificate marks. And I'm reading up some of the questions which are coming in the chat box. Students are asking, what is the weightage system to the certificate assigned? My only information and observation over here would be, I urge all my students and their parents to look up the Bulletin of Information because the marking scheme for both sports as well as ECA is provided. But yes, sir, if any student comes to me and say, even if a principal writes a letter of recommendation that she's my head girl and she's all-rounder, it's only very unfortunate that on this particular day, she did not perform her boards and her marks are less. So no matter the recommendation is from a principal or from anybody else, sir, the principal's admission process is clear. You meet the cutoff and the university criteria, you are in. So zero subjectivity is in the hands of anybody who is on the admitting side of the colleges.
Right. Thank you so much, Pam. Thank you to you and the complete team of SRCC.
Yes.
And a big thank you to Arpit for organizing this wonderful webinar where I can see the students from my school have given the link and many students are here. And I'm sure it is going to benefit the larger community. Thank you, Suprit ma'am.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
ma'am.
sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
I think this is the only time Mr. Bist would contemplate his recommendation doesn't particularly hold much value. But that is in best interest, I suppose. Moving on to some common questions which are being posted on the chat box. And I thank Mr. Harish for answering them patiently. Mr. Harish, I think you can take on the first one with respect to the ECA requirements, anything that ma'am may have missed out on. Do the marks and ECA work simultaneously in the admission process? Anything you would like to share with respect to the marking system and process thereof?
See, with respect to ECA, there is earlier the university had told that it is only going to be based on NCC and NSS certificates. Then the university in its July 25th notification told that no, now we are going to include all the 14 categories. Recently in the July 29 notification, I advise all the applicants who are asking questions regarding ECA to please go and read that notification in detail. Both the notifications, they are posted at due.ac.in. And in that, the university has very clearly mentioned about the marking scheme, which is going to be based on certificates. And there are also conditions for tie breaking. So obviously there are marks given for things like what level you have performed at, whether it is a team or whether it is a international, national, or a district level EC activity slash sports activity, there is also marks given to your academic curriculum. And regarding one question which is coming out a lot, that what happens if there is if a applicant clears both the general category and the ECA category. This has been referred to DO2, but the guidelines are silent on this at the moment. I can only give a general statement on this, that generally if you clear the general category, then the ECA category doesn't matter. Right now we have written to DU on this and we are awaiting reply on this. So for everyone on this too, and regarding ECA, see, it's the certificates that matter. And because this time there are no trials on either ECA on sports, so whatever certificates are being given on the portal, university has made it very clear that for any student who is going to be admitted, there is going to be a forensic examination of the certificates. So anything that is going to be posted, this it's on the applicant's onus to take into account whether they have put the correct certificates and whether the marks have been computed as per their idea. Even once the selection process that will happen on EC or on sports, that is not going to happen on one person's idea. It is, there's a committee of 4 people for that, which is mentioned in the notification, with the convener being the principal, a member of the cultural council of the college, and 1 member of NSS/NCC, and 1 member of the appointed by the staff council. After the marks have been posted, a window of 3 days will be given to the applicants to post their grievances, which the college or the university will answer accordingly. So regarding ECM sports, the idea is that students should really take a wider perspective of the ideas written on the notification, and in case there is any doubt, colleges as well as the university are both there to clarify that.
Thank you, sir, for the utmost clarity. Sir, I know you've been clarifying on the chat box, but can you also throw some light on the subject combinations vis-a-vis the respective courses? I know ma'am was talking about it as well. Maths in grade 12 being compulsory for economic honors, whether you or anybody else would like to take it. How does the cutoff get impacted in this scenario?
Okay, I can take up the economics bit. See, studying maths and qualifying it in class 12, that's a necessary condition for joining BA Honors Economics. All right. Now, it is up to you whether you wanted to include it in the best of four or no. That depends on your marks, right? So yes, you have to study maths in class 12 and qualify it in the class 12 exam. That's a necessary condition, I'm repeating. And yes, you know, there is something called as business maths, which is not taken as an equivalent to mathematics, okay? So business maths is not a substitute for mathematics for economics, okay? For other subjects, you know, you have different guidelines, all right? So that's it. You may or may not include it in the best of four. I think that was the query. In the best four, what is required is 1 language from list A and 3 elective subjects from list B.
Absolutely. Thank you very much,
list A and
ma'am.
list B are clearly published in the Bulletin of Information of DU.
Right. To be honest, ma'am, this is something even I did not know of before applying. And unfortunately, some of my friends did lose out on the admission, even though they had the marks. So I'm glad it's on the information bulletin now. Back on to Mr. Harish. So what is the consideration for the CIE A levels in the admission process? What will be the grade requirements? Are there any other considerations other than academics? And is CIE acceptable in other DU colleges as well?
See, one thing is that there is no distinction between, for the admission part, between Sri Ram College of Commerce and any other college. We are governed by the same Bulletin of Information, by the same guidelines that Delhi University issues. Regarding CIE in specific, because this term is not found in the Bulletin of Information, I would say that the candidate who has applied under CIE, they have to apply for a grade equivalence. What does a grade A mean in number terms? Okay, if it's a foreign student, then in that case, they have to apply as per the channel of the foreign student registry. Again, the application for foreign students has closed. The last deadline was, I guess, around 12 July. So for other aspects where the marks are not given clearly, okay, and if it's a foreign board, then there is an equivalence to be obtained by the Association of Indian Universities. So that process is slightly different as in case for CBSE, where the marks are given outright. Where grades are given, the grades would have a conversion scale. So whatever is the marks obtained on that conversion scale, they will be taken into account.
Fair enough. I found this dichotomy pretty interesting myself since I am an SRCC alumnus. This was posted by a parent for a specific course, but I will generalize it. Should we send a child to study away from the hometown, particularly abroad during this period? I want Dr. Rachna Java to address this from the SRCC undergraduate programs versus the ones abroad available perspective. Are we living in an Atmanirbhar Bharat from that standpoint?
Yeah, Arpit, I can quite relate to this because I am myself an alumnus of SRCC. So there might be a little bias in my answer, but definitely yes, SRCC by any standards is a college of global choice. The vision statement says it's a college of global choice, and this is what we are striving to be. And at this stage, of course, we are in an Atmanirbhar Bharat in the sense that if there's a choice between doing undergrad course at SRCC vis-a-vis some other foreign university, I would say 10 on 10 to SRCC because we are providing world-class facilities both for the BCom honors and the BA economics honors courses in terms of infrastructure, in terms of teaching learning methodologies, in terms of student support, in terms of the feedback that we take from all our stakeholders, in terms of the vast alumni connect that we have, Arpit. You will agree with me on this account. The rich alumni base that we have is definitely an asset for any institution, and SRCC can boast of the rich base that we already have, the legacy that we are following, and we are very close to the 100th year. And I am definitely sure about the choice that if there is a comparison between studying at SRCC and staying here in India vis-a-vis any other course abroad, it is SRCC for me.
Thank you, ma'am. I must also emphasize that SRCC offers a wide array of ECA opportunities, the extracurriculars, and students must follow their passion that not only lead to personality development, resume building, and great connections, but often translate into actual career prospects.
Definitely. I agree with you because Arpit, see, here we have around 52 student societies that are working, and they are headed by students only. I mean, the faculty is there to advise by the name of a faculty advisor. But otherwise, the students, it is the students who will plan everything, organize everything, communicate amongst each other. Like you've mentioned that you were heading the communication cell at your time when you were a student. That is one thing which definitely adds to the personality development of the students here. So the society exposure, the social outreach programs is one good thing that we expose our students to at a college level.
Thank you, ma'am. And not to forget the multiple festival opportunities that we have for all societies. As per my knowledge, since SRCC is the only college which has held this upfront and proactive discussion for the benefit of students in this difficult time, it would be great if any of the panelists can throw brief light on the process for other courses and colleges in DU. For example, the common entrance test. Maybe Mr. Harish can take this one as well.
Mr. Arpit, could you please repeat? I was quite engrossed in answering
No
those.
worries. I know you've been answering them all patiently. So yes. SRCC is the only college that has held this upfront and proactive discussion. Can you just shed a very brief light on the process for other colleges and courses in DU and specifically for the common entrance test?
See, there are 53 courses offered by DU across 90 colleges, and taking into account SRCC2 for merit-based, the process is exactly the same. You have to apply, a cutoff comes up, and then based on the cutoff, you get admissions. For entrance-based, the entrance exams will be held by national testing agencies. For that, there's a syllabus which is given on the DU website. There are 12 such courses for which the entrance exams will be held, and the applicants who are looking at the entrance exams need to look carefully into what the entrance exam syllabus will be. Regarding that, SRCC taking a proactive stance, well, I think this is deep-rooted into the ethos of SRCC. As a college, we are very much concerned about our stakeholders, not just stakeholders who are currently in the system, but also potential stakeholders, such as the students who are very much concerned. I have been handling admission queries, and we have people as early as class 9 asking, sir, SRCC is my dream college. In class 9th, I didn't even know SRCC existed. I mean, okay, but So class 9 students are asking, okay, SRCC is my dream college and I want to get, so please tell me what do I do? I guess the only thing you can do is study very well. I also see a lot of people asking, sir, I have 99.5. Is there a guarantee of SRCC? People are only really keep your hopes high. I mean, how do I tell that? In my times, 99.5 is like you put all the boys together, and that was the total of all the boys in the class. And now one student is scoring 99.5%. So it's yeah, it's very high hope. But yes, we have taken this proactive measure to answer. I think we are one of the very colleges active in this sphere of answering queries to regarding students. That's about it. But yeah, the process for other colleges towards merit remains the same. Entrance, it's different. And I would really advise applicants to look very carefully into the due guidelines for the same.
Fair enough. This one's pretty interesting, and I think I'll route it to Priyanka ma'am. Comes from Mr. Rajiv Bhalla, who's incidentally on my school board and stays 2 steps away from my house. How would you compare
I can't hear anything. Is he audible to others?
No, ma'am. I think there is a connectivity or electricity issue rather. We'll wait for Mr. Arpit to.
Yes, I'm back on. So how would you compare BA Economics at SRCC to St. Stephen's College? And incidentally, he happens to be a Stephens alumnus.
Again, I might be biased because I am also an SRCC alum. So I think you've already guessed my answer.
Absolutely.
I love my college. I think it's the best. But yes, this is on a lighter note. But yes, Stephens and SRCC have been in competition as far as economics honors is concerned all through these years. But the extracurricular more active in SRCC, and yes, our faculty in the Department of Economics is also commendable. So definitely Stephens is also a very good place to be in, but yes, my personal choice would be SRCC again. If I am again applying, am I audible, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you hear me? I'm not sure.
We were able to hear you, except that it was intermittent, but otherwise, I think we got the gist and the flavor.
Yes, we were able to hear you, Priyanka.
All right.
Absolutely. So, ma'am, absolutely. Sure, ma'am. Ma'am, I will leave the closing remarks of Professor Kaur to
I think we've again lost you, Arpit. I'm not able to hear you.
Arpit, there is some connectivity issue, I believe.
Yes, ma'am. Let us connect to him and get back to you in a while.
Okay, sure.
Until then, I think some of us could just inform the participants who are still able to hear us. I'll take up a typical question which has been coming, and this is regarding the percentage and whether it guarantees admission or not. To all the participants, I'm coming in because I need to bridge the gap until such time that Arpit is back on the platform.
I'm pretty much back.
Okay, so just give me a minute, sir, what I've just said. For my students especially, the day the board exams results came out, several journalists started calling me up, inquiring that because the number of students gone up, is it also expected to increase the cutoff at Sri Ram College of Commerce? So my response would always be that when Sri Ram College of Commerce or any other University of Delhi college will find out its cutoff, the data is sent to from the University of Delhi. we align the data with the number of seats that we have. For example, if we have about 300 students who have to be put up in the general category, we analyze the data which has been sent to us by the University of Delhi and see that about what percentage, at what percentage of 12th marks do we get a number which is close to 300, which will allow 300 students to come in. So if most of the students in the class 12th have actually got more than 95%, but are in the 95% to 96% bracket, it actually does not impact us because we are looking at percentage in the general category, which is even higher. So until we analyze the data which has been sent by the university to us, and we spent ample number of hours on deliberating on what should be the cutoff that is announced. Because there is a flip side, if we announce a cutoff which is too low, we cannot refuse admission to anybody once we have announced a cutoff.
Right.
So it is something on which the entire admission committee sits, deliberates, and then announces a cutoff. Thanks, Arpit. Sorry, but I was trying to utilize the time for participants while you were away.
Wonderful, ma'am. Ma'am, I will leave the closing remarks to you to sum up this highly informative and engaging discussion. So it's been an absolute pleasure hearing from you and your team. I would be grateful if you can conclude this with some motivational words for our students' socio-emotional well-being, especially for those who feel dejected on not having secured the expected marks in board examinations. Besides, it would be wonderful if you can also touch upon how the current grade 12 aspirants should prepare for the changes that are apparent for next year to secure admission in their dream institution, that is SRCC.
I will just, the motivational word over here that I would like to mention is, sometimes when students do not get accepted in SRCC, they start questioning themselves, why am I rejected? The alternate of selection is not rejection. That is my first thing that you must remember. Seats are limited. Competition is intense. Not everybody can get selected. But this does not mean that who's not been selected is actually rejected or is inferior to anybody else. Also, I would like to inform that when we are doing the data analytics and we are trying to bring the cutoff marginally lower by, let's say, 0.25, we could have as many as 150 students over there. And it becomes so difficult. We might have only 5 seats, but by reducing it by 0.25, we have 150. So this is a number game. Life is much beyond numbers. If you're not done well in your board exams and you're not able to get at Sri Ram College of Commerce, even if in the worst case scenario, you take it as your failure, please understand most of the success stories are actually based upon your failures. And in my eyes, you're not a failure because selection criteria is too intense. Try to follow a path which is less traveled. Sometimes the best of the people who have succeeded in life are the ones who've not actually followed the path which has been trodden by so many others. Choose an alternate line. You might as well find out that returns, and I'm not saying returns only in terms of monetary returns. Ultimately, what is required from the national perspective is that my human resource must be globally responsible social citizen. Yes, you need to be economically productive. You need to have a good placement or a startup. You have to contribute to the nation in terms of its GDP growth. But simultaneously, if you're not maintaining your health or your mindsets, you would have not enjoyed the benefits of money beyond a certain level of time. And you need to be socially conscious. Respect for your elders is immense. This is the time when old age is also being treated as a disease. The old people need you, your love, your affection. This is also a holistic development. And while pursuing your dreams, if you're not conscious to the overall environment, I think no growth for any nation or a person can be complete unless it is holistic. SRCC, yes, it is very important. We would be very happy to have you with us. But if you're not there, we remain connected even outside of the 4 boundaries of SRCC. The day most of my prospective students who have not been able to get admission call upon us, we will be remaining available to them on platforms such as this. Yes, we will not be formally able to register to you all because these are fundamental rules of university guidelines. But remaining positive in life is what matters. Adapting to circumstances is what matters, and innovating. Upskill your skill sets, if not necessarily your academic number set. That is a lifelong learning. And do not be dejected. And finally, as they say, aapko apne karam pe apna focus rakhna hai. Always put in your best in whatever you're doing, and then leave the rest. Whatever is there will happen for the best. Thanks you, Arpit.
Thank you very much, ma'am. That is short testimony of the great institution that SRCC is, with such inspiring educators who are out there with a student-centric approach. I will just repeat Winston Churchill's inspiring words. Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that really counts in the end. That is it from me. Thank you very much. Just to wrap up, I will leave this to Suhasini.
Thank you so much, sir. With this, we have come to an end to this extremely informative and engaging session. A big thank you to our esteemed panelists for taking out their precious time to talk with us. It was an absolute pleasure to have witnessed such a dynamic panel of educators. Now, I would like Atal Tinkering Lab Coordinator, Mr. Arjun Madhavan Kutti, to speak a few words on behalf of our principal, sir, Mr. Amarnath Biswas, who, due to some unavoidable circumstances, could not be here with us today.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I have been, on behalf of our principal, Anandamaya Memorial School, I'm here. My job is to propose a vote of thanks on this special occasion. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Professor Simrit Kaur, Principal SRCC, for sharing her in-depth analysis and overview of the new normal at the #1 College for Commerce in India. Ma'am, it was indeed an honor for all of us that you took out time from your busy schedule to share your thoughts with us. I also wish to express my gratitude to Dr. Rachna Java, Ms. Smita Sharma, Ms. Priyanka Bhatia, Dr. Tarun Manji, and Mr. Harish Kumar for providing encouragement to the aspirants and clearing their quiz. To conclude, I, on behalf of Ma Anandamaya Memorial School and the entire supporting team here, together extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all speakers for gracing and sharing with us your opinions today. I look forward to this continued interaction between the two institutions, and I wish all the applicants the very best in their application process and further educational aspiration. I also take this opportunity to thank all participants who have joined us from different platforms, Zoom, Facebook, and yes. I also want to thank Makers Dunia who have shared their Zoom platform with us today, making it possible for us to have this online webinar. That's all. God bless, stay safe and take care. And there is a feedback form which is there in your chat. We would request all participants to please make sure you're filling the feedback. That's all from us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Arjun. Thank you, everyone, especially the panelists for joining us. A word of gratitude for Makers Dunia for their technical support in this endeavor. It was a pleasure having such a curious and interactive audience. You can find the recording of the entire session on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Feel free to leverage other opportunities being offered by Ma Anandamaya Memorial School. I request you to kindly fill the feedback from postal in the chat. You can see the links in the chat. We will also be mailing it to you. We have all the email addresses. Thank you once again. Stay safe. Good luck in all your pursuits and have a nice day.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.